Good morning, everybody. My name is Tony. I've been on Raptor for almost a decade, so I recognize some faces here. I don't typically get to do this discussion with you guys with F-150, but super happy to be doing it with F-150. We're going to launch all these trucks at the same time, and in the end, right, it's important that Raptor is, we're part of the family, and we're the off-road performance variant of F-150. One of the things that John mentioned was 2009 when Raptor got going back in Gen 1 with the steel body, and that was a wonderful truck that we made almost a decade and a half ago. But through 3 generations, we've just continued to deliver on the vision, which is to bring customers closer and closer to trophy truck performance. The way that we do that, and I'm glad that he mentioned that Raptor now is more than just F-150, it's also Ranger, it's also Bronco, those are great products. I'm glad he mentioned that because, you know, when we think about Raptor, we always think about Raptor in 4 core tenets: suspension, power, appearance, and technology. It's always been that since Gen 1. It's been that through 3 generations. It's those 4, they don't change, and they're in that order. So that's where I'd kind of like to start to spend a few minutes on each one. So when we talk about suspension, right, we know that to be fast in the desert, fast where these trucks live, you have to be controlled and you have to be confident. The truck has to do what you have to expect that the truck is going to do what you're asking it to do. The way that, one of the things that we did new for the 24 model year, which is the trucks that stand behind me, is the dual valve, what we're calling the dual valve shock. In 2018, we brought out the first level of smart shock technology. It had compression control. Well, this now adds, this is the evolution, and it adds rebound control. So our engineers within Ford Performance go through some very extensive testing and validation of shocks, and the algorithms that the shocks actually are taking from a lot of different inputs to give the customer very precision response. So the shocks are incredibly fast, and then the precision response to the terrain that you're on is super important to give you that refined drive and confidence in the desert. So what does the customer get with dual valve shock? A dual valve shock off-road will provide a truck that is much more planted to the ground, because what you don't want to do to be fast in the desert is to reposition after you come out of obstacles. That's the first thing you're going to notice. On-road, right, you get some benefit on-road as well, so some of the driving dynamics will improve. Things like cornering, things like body roll, right? We just had these things out about a month ago out and did some spirited mountain road driving, and you could definitely tell that the shock was just keeping the truck more stable, firmly planted to the ground. So that's what you're going to get from the dual valve shock. Second thing I'll move on to is power. This is the V6 behind me. This has 450 horsepower, 510 foot-pound of torque. It is an incredibly well-balanced truck. I often tell people that this truck, for the 95% of customers who it's plenty of power, it's plenty of capability, you will run out of your capability behind the wheel before it runs out of its capability. For those 5%, 10% that just want a little bit more, last year we brought out the Raptor R, which is our supercharged V8. I'm going to hold back on giving you guys horsepower and torque numbers. That will come out at a later point in time, but I will tell you that this is the most capable and powerful Raptor yet, and it is certainly going to be the most capable and powerful Raptor in its segment. Moving on to number 3 is appearance. So one of the things that I heard Milton talk about, which on the Tremor, and I want to talk about it here as well, is the modular bumper. So we started with the idea of coming up with a bumper that, yes, it's a styling activity, but could we put it through the lens of having off-road performance from it? So we started the design of it, and then we said, well, you know what, we could grow some of the tire clearance, so we gave it a little bit of a shape to expose more tire that makes you more off-road capable. We gave it a takeout behind the grill here, so if you want a light bar, you go to the dealer and there's a rigid light bar that matches the rigid lights in the bumper already to give you lighting, which is again off-road appearance or off-road capability. We redid the tow hooks to give you some very substantial tie points, because rescue missions in the desert are very real. Whether you're a novice or you're a pro, they're very real. The other thing too, guys, is, and I don't want this to get lost, is that when we designed this bumper, we also kind of designed it to not just work on Raptor, but to also work on Tremor, because that's the name of the game nowadays. You have to be efficient in your engineering. So this center section comes off of one tool. It's the same on all the different models of Raptor, as well as Tremor. Then Tremor obviously gets a different end cap than Raptor does, because it's just a different user. We use a light bar here. They use a winch, because that's more of a customer usage thing on Raptor, on Tremor. And so there you go. As far as the rest of kind of the appearance, Milton talked about coast-to-coast grill. I think we did that across the board. Raptor's a little different. Headlamps, tail lamps are new. We did a little bit of different treatment, a little more technical treatment on the FORD, both front and matching on the applique in the rear. Also new graphics. This is the first time we've put a graphic on a fender. And then wheels. So this is usually the standard beadlock wheel. This is what we typically go with, and it's super popular with our customers. But the studio we gave them a little bit of free reign, and they came up with this on the Raptor R, and I think they hit a home run on that. The other thing I'll mention is this is a new color this year, only available on Raptor. It's called Shelter Green. If you look inside, we've refreshed the color and materials. The new carbon fiber weave patterns. Anything with dual valve, anything with a 37-inch tire will come with dual valve shocks, will come with Recaro seats in the premium interiors. The last thing I want to talk about is technology. From a technology standpoint, we spent a lot of time focused on what does the driver look at when they're doing performance driving. And so in the cluster, we've added something that we call a performance IOD. IOD stands for information on demand. And what that screen does is basically it reduces everything the driver's going to see to basic 3 or 4 things that are critical to knowing when you're performance driving. That is something we put in the cluster. In the head-up display, which is new across all of F-150, I think you probably have already heard about that. Raptor has kind of unique Baja content in which is core to the off-road space. In the head-up display, we also added performance shift indicators both to the cluster and the head-up display. And then Raptor comes with standard 7 modes, terrain management system. It comes with a la carte buttons, so you can tune, your exhaust and your shocks and your steering, etc. And then, of course, standard features like trail control and My Mode, which allows you to kind of set everything all at once and then kind of hit a button and it saves your settings. And then that's kind of it. I will end, guys, with always saying, I always kind of like to end these types of discussions with, like, I feel like I have a pretty cool job that I get to come and work on this kind of stuff, but the people that I work with and the engineers that are really kind of that are really passionate, and they do this stuff on the weekend with their own trucks and their own buggies and their own things, and those people, those are the guys that really have an input into these trucks and why they're so successful, and they take it very seriously to continue to be the trendsetters, the leaders in this space, and so this is the fruit of their work. So with that, I'll end there.